Teo from Abnormal Beings has been doing calisthenics for over 10 years, amassing 250,000 followers on YouTube. He started doing calisthenics to get stronger when he played football semi-professionally. His passion for calisthenics is infectious. His words of wisdom will help you level up. Welcome to the podcast. How's it going?
How's it doing, Daniel? Hey, I appreciate you having me on the show, on the podcast. It's a pleasure and honor. I've been a big watcher of your content for the early days, since the early days. So again, thank you for having me here. And yeah, I'm excited to be talking to you today.
Pleasure, man. What do you enjoy most about calisthenics? What's kept you doing this for so long?
I love being in control of your body weight. I feel as well it has a lot of transferable kind of strength to sports as well. So I'm a big sportsman. I've been playing sports since the early age. So like you said, I've been playing semi-pro football since the age of 16. So yeah, I felt like it was just kind of a very enticing way to train. And especially when I was younger, I wanted to get stronger on the football pitch. And I was thinking gym wasn't really too appealing to me. But then the art of like calisthenics and like using your core strength a lot, I was like, oh, this is great. This could fit really well with kind of my sporting activities. So that's kind of why I went down the route of calisthenics at an early age. And yeah, I've been just doing it since. Went down the rabbit hole, and you already know how it goes. You just start to do your own research and just get so invested. So
how has calisthenics changed since you first started 10 years in the game?
Definitely a lot more information out there. I feel like it's a lot more accessible. Like I go on Instagram, you just look on reels, you see some people doing some crazy dynamic 720s. It's just epic. Like it's amazing to see how it's grown. And yeah, definitely in the past, like you can see the levels as well. So like, people were amazed by like a 360 muscle up, for example, like back in the day, it's just, and now it's just doing craziness. People were like, people doing straddle planches and everyone's like, whoa. But now it's like, that's just like a standard thing. So I feel like over the years, the levels have increased as kind of more information and, there's more accessibility to calisthenics has come about. You can see like the levels are just over time, yeah. And I've seen some ridiculously strong athletes as well, man. Like especially, so I help organize these competitions through Coliseum. It's like these calisthenics events. So we tour Europe and do like these kind of different competitions and stuff. And honestly, there's some insanely crazy strong people out there. It's just epic to see. So long may it continue and grow.
For sure. I really have seen it grow over time as well. Like you'd come across someone doing a one-arm pull-up, you'd be like, whoa, one rep of a one-arm pull-up. Or as you said, someone pulling off a planche for 3 seconds was just crazy. They were like the king in the community. But this is the real blessing of the internet now, with the pool of people we have to draw inspiration from. The collective standard is so high where it's raising us. I feel you got two ways to go with this. You can either be a bit of a hater and just be like, oh, what they're doing is a bit too blah, blah, blah. Or you can see it as inspiration and just try and pursue your own path and draw from that and raise your own standards.
100%, 100%.
What do most people get wrong about calisthenics at large?
What do they get wrong? That's a good question. I feel like overtraining. I think a lot of people train, and they don't rest. They don't allow their body time to recover because, again, like you'll do a couple of sets of planche and then you're like, this is all right. I can do this again and again. But honestly, your body needs time to recover, especially if you're doing the first few times. Your CNS it gets fried. Like you need like a lot more rest, and I think people don't realize that. And I think as well, rest time between sets. I feel like people don't utilize enough time to rest, because I feel like they straight away want to jump into the next set, and it's like a lot of these movements you're working at max capacity, max level of strength. So you need all your energy to really focus on getting the max effort out of that set. So you need time to recover for that set.
How long would you recommend resting at a minimum? General recommendation.
At a minimum, I would say like 3 minutes. Like especially when it comes to like those heavy lifts. If you're doing like weighted pulls or weighted chin-ups, I'd rest like minimum 3 minutes, if not 5 more. You know what I mean? So it's like you need time to recover, because especially if you're pulling a serious amount of weight, you need that kind of level of effort to really max out. So I think that's one thing that people often get wrong is they have really short recovery time. It is good in a way, obviously, to build endurance, but if your goal is to build, serious strength and like master these harder skills, you actually do need to take time to fully recover for your working sets. So.
I feel those two you mentioned go hand in hand with people doing too much and potentially overtraining, in the sense that you can know if this is the case if you're consistently not able to improve on your previous numbers, reps, etc. And the problem with these type of people, which is most, we're all like this. We enjoy training so much, we think, okay, maybe we're not training hard enough. So then you're trying to do more and more, and you dig yourself a further hole, which in reality, which with the coach's perspective, it's a recovery thing, most likely for a lot of people.
100%. Like I've clients in the past. Like there was one guy who's again, bless him, he's addicted to Cali. Just 6 times a week, 7 times a week, even training. And I'm like, bro, you need time to recover. But and then we noticed the plateau is kicking in, and even the slight degression. I was like, bro, trust me, just rest go on a holiday. I was just go on holiday, just go away for a week.
Yeah, for sure.
came back a week. He was stronger, and I'm like, there you go, man. Like,
yeah, you've actually actualized your hard work, and it's come to fruition.
That's what I'm saying. Like, resting is a big part of your training as well. So, yeah, I think, like you said, those 2 points are things people should definitely focus on.
And I'll just add on to that, to ensure that you're able to be aware of this, is have a training journal, have a workout log, because that way you can actually see and be your own coach. Because otherwise, if you're just going in there and going off complete feel, you don't really know what you did 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because that stuff matters. How do you stay motivated after all these years? Because if we could bottle your enthusiasm and give it to the average person, the world would be a much healthier and happier place.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, I can't lie. It does take time, and like you have to be patient with it. And you're right. It's been a long time since I've started Cali, so I think one thing that's helped me keep motivated is kind of like also it's kind of been a career path for me in a way. So that's kind of like one reason why I've stayed motivated throughout. So opportunities have come again through social media, which has blessed me in a way to kind of keep going with the calisthenics, keep pumping out content, keep again obviously through YouTube videos, through Instagram, TikTok, all of these things. So it naturally you're still doing calisthenics, and it kind of motivates you to kind of get to that next level as well, because that's kind of your job as well in a way. So I think that's definitely helped it. And again, becoming a trainer again, so PT and like online coach. So that in itself as well, just like a lot of people want Cali training from you. Myself, I'm sure it's the same for you. So it's like, you know what I mean? You kind of like have to do Cali in a way, but that's kind of why I've stayed motivated, and as well just for my own personal reasons, just because I feel like it's a great way to train and incorporating weightlifting as well. So weight calisthenics, or like just general bodybuilding type of training, or like strength training, that kind of side of things as well, just has definitely helped me keep going over the years.
Given the diversity of goals that you can have and work on, I feel that there's a lifetime worth of pursuing physical feats. So it sounds like that's what's got you with the bug there, just kept going.
100%. Like once you learn one thing, you're like, okay, on to the next one, on to the next one. I can do a handstand. All right, one arm handstand. Let's go. It's like there's something always next. So it's like, I feel like it's a never ending kind of journey that you explore, which is great. But no, man, Cali, I'm still proper addicted to it, and I love it. So I feel like just keep going, man. If you've taken an interest, I know so many people. The beauty of it is that you get to experience other people going on that journey. So they watch a couple of videos or see someone doing this, and they're like, how'd you do this? Next thing you know, they're in the park like 6 times a week just with their bands, their rings, everything. I'm like, yo, you're serious. Like, so it's great to see. It's an addictive sport.
Could you outline the specific ways of measuring progress for calisthenics? Because we know with traditional weightlifting, the standard variables, but is there anything in particular to stay motivated with calisthenics people should keep an eye on?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say recording your sets is quite slept on. I don't see too many people recording their actual the work they do, because when you actually look back on your videos, you can actually see kind of your form, or if you're cheating certain reps, or for example. So I think that's one thing you could do. And also, again, like you said, using bands. Bands are a great way to measure kind of progress and track progress. So having kind of obviously an array of bands with, less assistance available to you. That way you can like see if you're actually getting stronger. And again, having basing your sets and reps on those particular bands and going into lighter one, that definitely helps as well. Obviously, if you're doing static holds, your hold time, so tracking how long you're holding a certain position, and again, obviously, just increasing that kind of that time on the tension. So again, just or you could even increase the intensity of the lever. So in a way by doing a harder progression. So by kind of taking a note of those two things, you can kind of really track and measure progress as well. So that's kind of more Cali focused, I guess, versus kind of the typical, oh, just add an extra little 2.5 kg weight plate in the gym to your working sets. So yeah, those two ways, so bands, and again, obviously like hold times and those harder bodyweight progressions.
Probably worth mentioning, because we're doing calisthenics, it's a bodyweight focused activity. Tracking your body weight, how much do you weigh? Because you might be really concerned with your progress and why you're getting worse, but maybe you've gained like 2 kilos.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. And like I said, weight, it plays a big part into all of this. So again, like with all the Cali skills and stuff, naturally, if you are leaner, if you're lighter, you're gonna feel a lot these skills a lot more easier. So like currently I'm 75 kilos. So a lot of people say feel like I look bigger, or I look like 85, 90 kilos. I'm like, no, I'm 5'9", so 176 centimeters and like 75 kilos. So yeah, when I started Cali, I was around like 62, 63, maybe even less, 60 kg. So I've over the years I've built like a lot of like muscle. So I was very slim when I was younger. So yeah, put on a lot of muscle over the years. But again, that's just like over time. And I never really had like bulking or cutting phases. But again, just because I've just been very sporty, very active. I've never really had a conscious like effort to kind of really track my weight. It's always been just performance based, just focused on sports. So, and then I only started to track my weight when I started to get more into like deeper into Cali and like doing weighted calisthenics, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm actually seeing progress in my weight here. And then I would always kind of like didn't want to go too heavy and compromise the gains I've learned in the skill work. So it's always been that kind of constant battle of, you know what I mean, just slowly getting stronger whilst I'm getting stronger, then increasing the weight, and then just like that kind of little battle. And then over the years, that's like kind of this is what I've amassed to. So yeah, I feel like I'm a nice weight now. I reckon I think I could push 80 if I really wanted to, but again, I'm not in no rush. Like I want to take it slow, just build up my strength as the skills increase as well. And I think that's, for me personally, it's a longer route to success, but that's like kind of my way to match skills with your weight, I guess.
That's a realistic motivation for people that are listening. That metric of around your height in centimeters and your weight in kilos. If you've been training for a decent amount of time, say 3, 5+ years, it tends to be people falling around that mark and having a low level of body fat and really decent muscularity. Although with calisthenics, there's so many different sub-disciplines of it. What's the style that you gravitate towards the most yourself?
I love the statics. I love just the static holds. I feel like because of how tough they are, it takes a long time to kind of master these movements. Yeah, statics for me is like kind of my go-to when it comes to calisthenics. Like I train for learning all of these skills, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my goal when it comes to Cali, just to learn as many different skills as possible. Because one, it just looks cool, and two, you just build a lot of strength. So
Yeah, I'm sure everyone listening is in a similar position to what you enjoy as well. They want to get the strength skills. It looks impressive. It's fun to move your body. But there's no hiding the facts here, mate. You've got a very impressive physique. How do we get the skills but also get the aesthetics too?
yeah, appreciate it. I mean, I've been mixing like gym and calisthenics as well from the start. So yeah, I would say mainly majority of it was body weight, especially at the beginning, at the start of my training, and then obviously when you start to do more research, you look into progressive overload and ways to kind of like improve your performance. And then that's when I got introduced into weight calisthenics, and then obviously incorporating some gym lifts as well, especially for legs. So I do a lot of weightlifting when it comes to my lower body. Again, just natural testosterone booster when you're doing back squats and all these heavy compound lifts. So like it's just a great way to kind of like build a well kind of balanced physique. And I felt like having almost okay push pull splits, but then obviously incorporating that kind of bodybuilding side of training to it towards the end of my sessions, that kind of really helped, I guess, mold the physique, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah, right. So you'd be doing your calisthenic strength stuff at the start, prioritizing that, and then finishing with a bit more isolation or weighted compounds.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Always prioritize the skill work. You know, where I have the most energy, and then yeah, training frequently. I feel like frequent practice and having like shorter, lighter sessions helps a lot, because when it comes to skill training, I feel like repetition of that movement just really helps to understand that. So I try to do that a lot, and then obviously, like you said, just finish off with those isolation exercises in the gym. And yeah, over time, like I said, you've got to give it time. It does take a while, but yeah, it's a journey. Just enjoy the process.
Do you have any preference in terms of getting stronger skills for how you train them? As in, do you have a preference for isometrics or dynamics? What's your thoughts?
I think a mixture of both is great. Like I've used a number of ways, and the great thing about calisthenics is like how I learned front lever can be totally different to how someone else learned front lever. You know, so I feel like it is having one saying, "Oh, this is going to work." I think like it's kind of hard to say that, because there's so many different ways to master a movement. But for me personally, a mixture of dynamic and stack holds work best. And obviously, you kind of like, oh, I always try to film my sets so I can kind of look at my form and like make those adjustments. I think filming your sets in every workout is just great, because again, you're working with your own body weight, so you need to know how to position your body in certain ways. So especially if you want to learn the skill well. So recording your sets is a great tip I recommend people should do. And again, just look back, make those adjustments if need be. And I think it depends on how. Again, it depends on like your current schedule, like how long you have to train and stuff. But you could do working sets to failure, or you could even do lighter sets and just more frequent, like I said, over time, where you're almost doing like a greasing the groove technique. But like for me, I would just do in my push pulls leg split sessions, for example, I'll do 20, 30 minutes of those skill work. So again, I'll probably take it to task failure or close to task failure. So on most sets. And again, obviously, as the weeks go by, you can start to extend the lever. So if it's front lever, start to bring the knees further out, or like pick a hard progression. So ways to obviously kind of like progress it, and then that way you kind of like track kind of progress. So that's kind of how I recommend people should do it.
With all this information now on the internet, it can be very overwhelming. How do you advise people to go about goal setting?
I would say working like smaller micro goals, kind of just setting yourself kind of those smaller goals. For example, if you're a complete beginner, just focus on mastering those basics. So just take a few movements like pull-ups, push-ups, dips, squats, just lunges, for example, just any kind of basic body weight movement, and just set yourself a target number. So maybe test out how many you can do in one set, and just kind of build up to a goal. For example, if you can't do one pull-up, then maybe have that as like a starting point to kind of build that one goal, rather than just saying, oh, I want to learn a muscle up, or I want to learn a human flag, so start off with those kind of smaller micro goals and just build your way up, because that way you're going to be a lot more motivated. And once you reach that kind of little goal, you'll move on to the next, and it's like a small kind of those small incremental increases in like reaching your goals. That's what's going to really get you to stay disciplined and stay motivated at the same time. Because if you have like overreaching goals, like again, like I said, the muscle up or the planche, or you're gonna see like it's gonna take a long time to reach to that goal. So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna most likely fall off and just drop off and just give up. So that's kind of my advice as a beginner, to set those smaller kind of goals, and then as you complete that one, you move on to the next little jump. Small incremental increases.
What about the people that are overly ambitious and excited and try and do everything at once? What's your advice to them?
Focus down. Like I tell people, if you want to master something, you need to, okay, first of all, you need to kind of take a look at yourself and say, okay, I'm actually strong enough to do this skill. And then if you're not, then maybe look at another skill which is kind of more tailored towards your current strength level and like really focus down. So I honestly usually just work on like one or two skills max for a long period of time because you can then actually track your progress. And it's quite measurable in that way. You can actually build a program around that skill and again make those small changes and actually see the difference. Whereas if you, like you said, if you're trying to pick like 5 6 different skills at a time, it's you're not really getting that same amount of practice in. It's a very very choppy and it'll be harder to track progress. I feel like if you really focus down and dedicate your time to one or two skills, then you're going to see a lot more benefit when it comes to your training and actually achieving that skill.
That's really, really good advice. And you've heard it there from someone who's probably tried both approaches, doing it all at once and narrowing it down. If you hear the same type of sentiments shared by experts, it's worth noting that there's some merit to that for sure. With the goals, though, I think people need to understand realistic expectations. So from your experience, what would you say to people like in terms of time frames to achieving certain things? Because I feel that people tend to want it today, right? They want everything to happen right now. Can you just throw some advice regarding what's realistic?
100%. I mean, like I get asked a lot by people, oh, how long will it take me to learn this move? How long will it take me to learn a muscle? How it differs depending on the person. It depends on a multitude of factors like your mobility, your strength, your current strength level, like just so many different things. So for me, it's about kind of understanding it will take a little bit of time and accepting that you need patience for calisthenics because it 9 times out of 10 it does take a while for your joints to get conditioned to learn these movements, especially if you're doing these static holds and stuff. So what I would say is look at skills. There's a lot of information out there online. Look at easier skills that you can kind of master. For example, like the frog stand, the bent arm lever, even the back lever. I would say those three, or like even like an L sit, for example, those easier skills, they're a lot more accessible and achievable because they require less strength and you're at like a mechanical advantage compared to these other harder calisthenic skills like the planche and the front levers, and for example. So I think like you have to do a bit of research, see what is actually kind of tailored more towards your current strength level, and actually master skills based on your current strength level. And then slowly, as you get stronger over time, as you build that strength, you can start to focus on those harder skills. So I would say do a bit of research. Again, just work on those easier skills first before you progress onto the harder.
Today's sponsor for the show is Fitness FAQs. Use the coupon code podcast10 to save 10% at checkout when shopping on fitnessfaqs.com. Enjoy the discount and let's get back to the conversation. I'm sure there's many people that are watching and listening to this who want to follow in your footsteps. They are passionate about training and they'd like to pursue it as a career path. If you go back in the past and give advice to someone, what would you say?
I would say, and this is one thing I didn't do as much as well. I didn't record my failures and like as in when I was very very young. So when I was a complete absolute beginner and I was struggling with a lot of movements, I was kind of embarrassed in a way. I didn't really want to post anything because I was like, oh, this isn't good. This is no. Honestly, just film everything you do because you can use that content in the future to as transformational content. And I think that's a great way, especially if you're a beginner, if you want to start out potentially going down the career path route of calisthenics and like having those kind of transformational videos, they help kind of grow a following and stuff like that. You could use that as content. So I feel like documenting your journey from earlier on, I wish I did that a bit more as a beginner. So I think if you're out there and you want to start calisthenics and start to get into training calisthenics and training other people potentially, and building up your socials and stuff, definitely film your journey because people will buy into you. So they want to know your story as well. So I would say definitely start recording everything you do, and just having that footage in the memory bank is going to help you in the long run, in the future.
How about being a good teacher? Is it teachable?
I mean, it is. I feel like it can be. I think you have to do your own due diligence. So, like, obviously, do your own research. Make sure you get your qualifications wherever you're based in the world. So, becoming a accredited personal trainer, just having an understanding of health and fitness, and just immersing yourself in that environment. Maybe taking up some jobs in a gym where you kind of focus on teaching calisthenics, or teachers training people. I think it comes with experience. So you can't really teach someone how to train someone. You have to actually do it yourself, I feel, in a way. So, because it is also, as much as it is knowledge, it's about people skills as well, and being able to socialize and interact with people. So it's like you need to, I think you just need to throw yourself out there and actually just do it and just gain experience. And those kind of life experiences over time, they just like, yeah, accumulate to you becoming a better teacher, especially when you're dealing with clients and stuff, and like, giving form cues, and just knowing how other people's bodies work as well as your own. I think that just comes with time and experience. So a mixture of obviously knowledge, qualifications, and actual experience.
I think that's great advice, because at the end of the day, we all have the same type of knowledge. We're teaching relatively similar concepts to our clients at large, but it's how you make them feel. Do you listen to them? Do you pay attention? Do you remember stuff about their life, their training progress, their goals? If you can nail that stuff and be enthusiastic, patient, and just listen to them, you'll have more clients than you'll know what to do with.
100%, 100%. Again, great advice. So yeah, if you're out there listening, definitely follow those tips.
Good advice.
100%.
Very good advice. How do you improve your basic exercises and skills concurrently?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like as a beginner, you should really always focus on the basics first. So before any kind of skill work, just start to really nail down those basic movements. So again, comfortable pull-ups, push-ups, dips. And when I say comfortable, I reckon um, 10 consecutive pull-ups, for example, 20, 30 consecutive dips, 50 bodyweight squats. I'm just throwing out numbers out there, but just a decent amount where you feel comfortable with that actual movement. So I think once you can do that, that's when you can start to kind of delve into those harder movements. So for example, like an L-sit pull-up, where that it kind of involves a bit more skill, kind of orientation to the movement as well. You do start to master the L-sits, the bent arm lever. So I think that's when you can start to delve into those skills. But I feel like a lot of people want to rush and jump into the skill work without actually having that kind of base level of strength. So I think you have to really, really master those basics before you move on. And I think I myself spent about a good 3 months of just doing kind of circuit training. As a beginner, I was doing like circuits, so pull-ups to dips to just cycling that, and then just doing it for reps, and then I'll track progress by my sets and reps, or even like the time that sometimes I'll time myself and see how quick it would take me. So it's just a good way to build like strength and endurance. And then once your body is ready and like you feel a bit stronger, that's when I started to learn those skills. So I think the first skill I learned was obviously the L-sit. Then it was like the I think the muscle up and back lever. So it was a bit weird. Like usually the muscle up, a lot of people find it harder to do, but because like I said, I was focusing so much on those basics, I built a lot of pulling strength. And like that's what it just goes to show, that how if you really, really hone those basic movements, you can build a lot of strength and power, and it will make those skills a lot easier to achieve because your body's better prepared for it. So that's why I learned like the muscle up very quick, because my pulling strength was just from reps and building up that pulling strength. It was a lot easier to learn. So it didn't take me that long. I still had to practice and train for the muscle up, but it took me a short period because my body was better prepared for it. So yeah, that's kind of my advice.
And the reality is, it's not like you get to that point of basics, you've ticked it off, and you have it for life. Unfortunately, there's a certain amount of maintenance and upkeep that's required, because if you let that go over a long period of time, then you might notice that your skills aren't progressing that quickly and you're getting frustrated. And perhaps you have to consider you haven't done any basics in 6 months or a year.
100%. I think for these past 10, 11 years, I think that there's always been pull-ups or a chin-up in my workout routine, always. No matter what. It could be a bodyweight variation, it could be a weighted variation, but it's always been a staple, So I think like you should never really neglect the basics. It should always be in your program, really. And like, and it's just a great exercise. It's an amazing compound lift. Like you can load it up with so much weight. Like I've seen like the weighted chin-ups are like my go-to now. Like I just love that. And you can build some serious strength with those movements alone. So I think like you said, it should be staples in your workouts for sure.
And to keep the basics interesting, it's not like you have to keep doing the exact same thing all the time. You can rotate between a pronated pull-up and you go to a supinated chin-up. You could do a neutral grip. You can go onto the rings. Same thing with dips. You can go from your parallel bar dips to rings. It's a way to keep it invigorated and interesting, but you're still doing it.
100%, exactly. Like you said, there's so many variations to these basics, so you can just experiment and just and literally just have fun with it because there's literally no restrictions. Like you said, ring training is amazing as well. Like, well, as soon as I mastered those dips on the bars, and I was like, okay, what's next? Someone introduced me to rings. I was like, oh, rings. I was like, oh, this looks easy. I can do dips, man. Let me back. I was like, there, like, like literally just falling over the place. I'm like, how can I do like 10 dips, but I can't just, you know what I mean?
No. See, this is where people need to take the video for the first time of them using dips. I have actually a funny video of me with rings over a power tower, and I'm trying it out for the first time, just shaking like a fish.
No way. Oh my God. That's what I'm saying. Those clips, like you got to film it, man. Just so you can look back on it. Oh, that's jokes.
What would you say is your favorite progression scheme in terms of like sets and reps? Do you have any particular range that you like to stick to for certain goals?
Yeah, I think for strength, it's definitely the 5 to 6 rep range. I usually tend to stick around, just for just building strength, and I just love to lift heavy stuff because it's a good feeling about it, you know. So I do a lot of weight cali. I do a lot of weight chin ups. That's like been a staple of my routine, and it's great because you can track progress. Again, like I always have the numbers that I hit each session, and currently I'm trying to get a 1 rep max for 80 kg. So right now I'm at 75 kilos for 1 rep max for the weighted chin up, which I'm really happy about. That's like my body weight, so it's like I want to try and push a little bit more, just get the 80 kilos, and that's just been over time, just following like a program. So I started, I think, with just a lot lighter weights, and then again just working in the 5 to 6 rep range. And for me, I've built a lot of strength just by doing that. There's also times where I love to, like, again, with obviously once I've done my cali work and I'm just onto those isolation exercises, that's when I go a bit more in those higher rep ranges. So in like the 10, 15 rep ranges, maybe even 20 on certain exercises. So I like that as well. I enjoy it. I enjoy the pump feeling, which is great. It just sometimes it's a little bit boring. I get a bit bored, I can't lie. So it's like that's kind of the only downside to me. I prefer doing those, you know, more intense, like heavier, and then short.
Yeah, because with that more hypertrophy, muscular focus, your goal is pretty much just taking the muscle close to failure on whatever movement you're doing. Whereas with the performance side, you've got, oh, my bench is X, my dip is X. It's something special about both of them.
100%, yeah, exactly. So I think, like, yeah, it has its place, those higher rep ranges, and I definitely do that, especially when it comes to, you know, if I want to build muscle, like body build, then technically those higher rep ranges, they work really well for me. So definitely a mixture of both, I guess, is key to, well, again, it depends on your goals, but a mixture of both for me personally is, like, yeah, the best.
How much of a feature should bands be in this process?
I'm a big lover of bands. I can't lie. Yeah. I love using bands. It's honestly, it's just a great way to track progress. And again, you can make those, especially if you're using your own body weight, you can make incremental changes using bands because you actually have a way to measure, you know, how much assistance you're receiving. You know what I mean? So it's like there's so many different ways you can use the band, and I feel like bands are like slept on a bit, especially when it comes to skills, because you can actually like adopt the correct position with a band, and like it builds confidence as well. So I love bands. Like I use it a lot in my skill training, especially, for example, the front lever pull up was a recent skill I've been working on for the past months, and using the bands has helped massively. Like you can see, just having an array of bands as well. It's like lifting, like, you know, in a gym where you kind of like drop the weight in a weight stack. It's exactly the same principle with the bands. So I think people should definitely invest in some bands and use them.
For sure, because it can be a little bit deflating if you've been training a skill, a certain progression posture, and you're on a tuck or an advanced tuck for quite some time. To mix it up, or even concurrently training using the band assistance, you can just train the full posture or some slight regression from it, and just gradually work on decreasing the band over time, which is a nice change to your training. But I also like that you mentioned the dynamic use of front lever pull-ups with bands, because if you read on the internet, there's a lot of negativity with those because it doesn't match the strength curve of the exercise, as in it helps too much at the bottom when it's easiest and least towards the top. But this is where the science and what is seemingly optimal on the surface doesn't match with what's happening in the trenches. So I like that.
No, 100%. I feel as well like a certain degree of skill movements requires you to be really strong in a way. So just building muscle in general, if you can just build a good kind of base and foundation. So for front lever, you need a lot of lat and tricep strength. If you can build up your lats and your triceps, a lot of people think it's just core. It's a lot of your lats. The load is a lot on your lats and your triceps. If you can really like strengthen those and build some serious muscle in your lats and triceps, naturally you're going to feel the front lever is going to naturally become easier because you're stronger. So I feel like that has a play in it as well, to actually like with the skill work, obviously practicing it is your priority, but at the same time, you still need to condition your body to do that movement. You need to be strong and, big enough to do it. So I feel like that is also kind of slept on a bit when it comes to skill training. So
It's interesting because the people that focus mainly on the skill stuff don't really put much emphasis on the muscle work. They're trying to really maximize the neurological efficiency and effectiveness. But so true, if they're plateauing for a long period of time, maybe it's worth doing a hypertrophy block and then building a bigger motor to teach how to be strong afterwards. Have you had many injuries over the years? And if you have, what were the lessons that you learned?
yeah, so if this wasn't from calisthenics, but I was on the Ninja Warrior show, this UK Ninja Warrior show, and it was a very like it was in Manchester. It was a great experience, but I was doing a lot of like climbing and swinging. And it was very very cold. It was very very cold in that arena or whatever. And I didn't warm up properly, and because I was swinging and like it was so bad. Like literally, I was swinging from a bar, and my shoulder kind of popped out. It partially dislocated, so it
Oh no.
subluxed.
Yes,
So
I've
that was
watched.
my worst. Yeah, so that was my worst kind of injury. So I've had issues, and like ever since then, I think that was when I was about 21 or something like that, 22. It just kept popping in and out. It was so unstable, the shoulder joint, and I would strengthen it to the point. So I'll do my rehab, and then I would play like some because I was still playing semi-pro football. I'm getting into physical contact with people, my shoulders going all over the place, and then I'll just like land, and then it will pop out again. And it was a constant recurring thing for like 1 or 2 years, and I was just adamant I was not going to get surgery. So I stepped back on the football, and then I focused more on just like really really recovery and rehabbing my shoulder, and taking a lot of time to build up those just strength around this whole area. So I feel like building up my pecs, my front delts, just everything around this area, my lats, and again, obviously the rotator cuffs, just everything around this area. Just really focusing on strengthening that. That has helped my shoulder a lot massively, and I've had no issues now since, thankfully. Just slight limitations in ROM, but again, I'm working towards building that strength in greater ROM as well, which has helped as well. So it's getting there. It's like it's very much healed now, but that was my worst kind of injury.
Sounds like you've had very smart but also sensible calisthenics programming to be injury free pretty much for over a decade. That's actually really impressive. And just having a chance encounter injury is quite unfortunate, but you've managed to recover it very well and looked after it, which is commendable. What other issues you see people have as far as injuries with either the average person you see on the internet, in calisthenics, or in the parks? What do you tend to see most of?
I see a lot of shoulder injuries. I think just the shoulder in general is like a very like free moving joint. So there's many ways to kind of mess it up. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of stuff online as well of like bicep tears. So when the bicep rolls up from doing like Hephaestos or like all these movements, and I'm thinking it's just if you don't have the natural, like if you don't have that mobility, if you can't get your shoulder into good extension, and you're forcing tremendous stress on your bicep, it's just gonna pop. So I've seen a lot of biceps getting torn from Hephaestus and stuff like that, which is kind of bad. I feel like that is like a common thing I've seen. Other injuries, I think it's generally around the shoulder, like maybe pecs as well, torn pecs from doing like heavy dips or something like that. Like again, it's just the movements that are just very very super intense. You know, if you're working past your one rep max capacity, I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure. So yeah, man, I feel those kind of movements are the worst things, I guess.
I feel there's a certain risk to reward with those movements, and people really don't respect enough what could potentially go wrong. But with time and seeing people making similar mistakes over and over again, I hope people are sensible enough to take the right path themselves and at least be patient, as you said, listen to their body if they do decide to pursue these movements. I think there's a real lack of patience as well. People are way too aggressive with their progression, trying to go into full Hefesto straight away without using a lot of band assist or some regressed lever postures, or just conditioning the surrounding areas like the bicep and stuff to a good enough extent. It's quite sad to see people get career-ending injuries with that outcome.
Yeah, literally, and it's sad because like it is an addictive sport, and when you don't have that kind of fuel, you don't have nothing to kind of do. It sucks, man. Like I've been in a period where you're just well, luckily when if you are injured out there, I'd definitely recommend working on like your flexibility and mobility. That's what I did when I was injured. I'd look at other ways I can still kind of train. So that's when I really focused down on mobility. You know, worked on certain area weaknesses of mine and stuff, and I felt that kept me motivated and going as well. But at the same time, you want to avoid that completely and just stay injury free and like factor in flexibility and mobility into your own routines as as a natural thing. So I feel like if you're injured, just focus on what you can do rather than be like being upset about it and just staying demotivated. Just focus on what you can do, work your training around that, and then obviously do the necessary rehab, and then learn your lesson. That's that's it really. So, yeah.
I've seen a lot of people get a newfound interest for lower body training when they injure
Oh
their
yeah,
upper body.
exactly right. Then oh yeah, squats,
Squats every day.
Yeah, squats every day. I'm like, oh god.
Why are calisthenics athletes so shredded?
Oh, I feel like you need to be light in a way. Especially for these skills, you need to, the lighter you are, the better it is, right? And obviously, you don't want to be some skinny guy, right? You want to have a bit of muscle about you. So you if you want to be light, then you got to shred that body fat. So I feel like that's why a lot of people are quite shredded. I mean, there is a degree of like everyone's different. Like I love eating clean as well. I enjoy like healthy foods that actually make me feel good. I think like I'm very performance based when it comes to nutrition. So if it makes me feel good, I'm gonna eat it. And then yeah, I feel because I have a quite active lifestyle. I'm always up on my feet. I'm always moving. And especially from an early age, I've always been into sport. I think that's what's helped me stay quite shredded over the years. And again, genetics plays a big part. Like naturally, I'm just was born quite lean, so I've always had kind of, I guess, like a six pack. Again, obviously wasn't that great back in the day. It was just one of those ones where you're just quite slim. But again, like I said, over time you just build size and with the right nutrition and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of like how I kind of came to be, if that makes sense.
Do you have any strategies that you'd recommend for maintaining that level of leanness?
Oh, I feel like if it's to the detriment of like your own health and well-being, mental well-being, then it's not worth it. Like again, I know and I appreciate everyone's genetically built different. So you may be a lot leaner naturally versus others. So, but there's definitely ways to kind of improve your leanness and get shredded down, and like that can be easily achieved with like a proper diet or nutrition guide. So if you kind of like stay in a slight caloric deficit, or maybe just cut out certain foods that bloat you, for example. Maybe you could be gluten sensitive, for example, or like what I mean, just have an intolerance or something. If you just kind of do a bit more research, fix up your diet and nutrition a bit, and then actually see if you can maintain that over a long period of time. I think like rather than having maybe like a restrictive diet, which you're like, I'm hungry all the time. You need to have something that's sustainable that you can do throughout the years. So if you can find that sweet spot of hitting like or finding yourself a sustainable diet where you can do throughout the years, I feel like that's the best way to go about it, because then it won't feel like a task, and then you'll actually feel happy within yourself, and that you know what I mean, that you have those abs, versus someone who's been like just on some massive restrictive diet, only 1,500 calories every day for like the past, you know what I mean? It's not realistic. So yeah, I feel like you need to have something sustainable and enjoyable at the same time. That will allow you to have a certain level of leanness.
When it comes to recovering from hard training, do you have any particular methods that you gravitate towards?
Yeah, I mean, now I get like a mobile massage done, or I'll go somewhere to get a massage. So I get quite frequent, like once a week or once every 2 weeks, like a full-on like 1 hour sports massage, and that's helped me a lot, massively for my recovery, just to keep my body supple. There's also like a hot yoga place which is quite near my area, so sometimes I'll go once or twice a week, and that's again is really helped with my flexibility. So that if you can get into those sort of things, and I can appreciate people may not be able to go to classes, there's a lot of stuff online. Like honestly, there's so much free content out there. So you could even search your own routines, which you can follow along to, or do your own self massage with like there's all those Theraguns now that they have, or like the massage guns. They're great. But doing that has helped me from intense sessions, just recover. A mixture of that and rest, literally just rest. So yeah.
You've mentioned flexibility a few times. I feel that that's a neglected part for people doing calisthenics. What areas would be the most helpful for people to stretch and get more flexible?
Oh, 100%. For me, it's definitely the overhead mobility when it comes to like handstands, for example. So a favorite of mine is the butcher's block. I love that stretch, like on the triceps and lats. Like it's just once you know how to set it up right, it is amazing. Like it's for me, it's one of the best overhead mobility stretches you can do, and yeah, it's great. Like overhead mobility for me is a limiting factor for people that learning the handstand, because once you're on a straight line, people got to realize if you're stacked, you're at like an advantage. There's no load on your shoulders. It's the handstand becomes way easier. So if you can naturally improve that, that shoulder flexion, that range where you can just get your arm all the way past, that will really help unlock certain skills, overhead skills like the handstand. So I think that's a real good stretch to do and research on. And then yeah, so overhead mobility, I would say as well, kind of your hip flexor mobility as well. So stuff like L sits, or like your compression, the ability to compress. So driving your knees in, tucking, because you do a lot of like where your tuck planches, your tuck levers, you need that ability to kind of compress. So work on, do some research, work on your kind of your ability to compress. That kind of will help. So again, stretching out your hamstrings, tightness in the lower back hamstrings. So for me, Jefferson curls are another great exercise if you research that. Like I do a lot of loaded stretches, so a lot of weights as well, which is using incorporating weights. So yeah, that's literally kind of my go-to when it comes to stretching. It almost feels like a workout when I do my stretches, because it's not really like static stretches. I do a lot more kind of like involve the weights, so that helps me a lot when it comes to flexibility.
If you could speak to the whole calisthenics culture, what would be some words of wisdom you'd say?
I would say focus down, rest up, and train hard as like a quick free thing. Little sentence. Just right, yeah,
Succinct.
literally, just very simple. Just focus down, work hard and just rest up. Like those three, because they're literally that's all it is. Like you need to like know when to rest. You need to let your body recover, but you also need to train hard. Like I think a lot of people don't train at like a good level of intensity. Like I get that you aren't motivated on some days, and like and those sessions, it's okay to not push your limits and like really like train as hard as you can, but there needs to be a level of where you can't just be coasting with your training, especially if you want to see progress. You can't just be comfortable. A lot of people aren't don't want to when it's painful and stuff, it's uncomfortable, and I get it, but you need to actually like get into that uncomfortable zone to see progress. And especially when you're like later down those years, your session, because your body's like it's a machine, so it adapts very quickly and easily. So once you have a good level of strength, you need to be pushing really hard and heavy weight if you want to get to that next level than now, because you know what I mean, your training intensity has to, if you want to force, you have to force physical adaptations, so you need you need to train intense. And I think sometimes people may kind of coast a little bit, and that's where they don't see as much progress. So I think that's a good bit of advice as well.
Teo, ladies and gentlemen, lovely chat. Where can people find out more about your work?
Yeah, sure. Check me out on YouTube, on Instagram, abnormal_beings. Again, just loads of valuable content on there. Even on TikTok, I think some funny stuff as well. So if you like a bit of comedy and entertainment, check that out too. And then, yeah, apart from that, you could also check out my online coaching. It's all the links are on my socials too. But like I said, Daniel, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on this podcast. You're a great guy, man. Honestly, like, big watcher from the early days. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this, man. It's been great. Good
stuff, man. Take care.
Awesome, Daniel. Take care, bro.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Visit fitnessfaqs.com to master calisthenics and become a bodyweight pro.